with us today. And I'd like to have Steve step up and say a few words for us.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So I'm going to give you a report from the front. A report from the front. You guys are my essentially my don't tread on me buddies, and I think that I should let you know what's going on up there. There's, from a point of view of someone who is kind of like you in the legislative process. Okay. First of all, I had a press conference yesterday on the need for us to have much more immediate unfunded mandate relief than we're getting from the government, which obviously is no surprise. This is something that they've been, tussling with for about 30 years. And I knew we were going to have a problem with it when the governor said in his State of the State address that we were going to have public hearings about the unfunded mandates, and then we were going to send it over to the legislature. Well, that's the kiss of death right there. And so what I put in as a bill is that the New York State Association of Counties, all 62 of them comprised of the county executives from each one, put forth a set of proposals for the 9 unfunded or underfunded mandates that make up over 90% of the problem. And the problem is this, that every dollar of revenue that they get from property taxes, over 90 cents of that dollar goes to these unfunded mandates, which includes Medicaid, pensions, early intervention, special education, jails. It's a litany of them. And there's a 10th one, which no one even talks about, which is our requirement here in the Hudson Valley that we make sure that the water is safe to drink for the citizens of the city of New York. Okay, which involves taking phosphates out of the water, which is hellaciously expensive and ends up getting onto the county and the town bills that will be coming out of your property taxes. So if you include them in, then for every dollar revenue that comes in, $1.10 goes out in unfunded mandates. So it's an untenable situation. So I put in a bill that we the legislature adopt right now and implement the recommendations from the New York State Association of Counties, which is eminently reasonable. Okay, I'm sorry? Okay, which is very reasonable and really will end up saving us billions of dollars and make the counties solvent again. So that was, that's one going on. Now I will ask you a question. I think you'll find this interesting. I asked this at my press conference yesterday, and it's a fact that I've learned in what I'm doing right now, which is putting forth a proposal that's going to come out in 3 weeks to basically bring the legislature into the 21st century and save us taxpayers billions of dollars in the process. Right? But in order to do so, here's an interesting posit to you, okay? In order for a bill to pass in New York State, in New York State, just like in the federal government, it has to, originate in one of the houses, either the Senate or the Assembly or the House of Representatives. In our case, in the New York State Senate or the Assembly, and it has to get. We'll go by the Assembly. It has to go into the Assembly. Somebody has to put their idea onto paper. And then it gets drafted in the bill drafting, and then it comes out, and then you put it into the hopper where it gets a number, where then it will ultimately go into committee for the committee to consider whether or not it will be put onto the Assembly floor in order for the entire 150 members of the New York State Assembly to vote on it. Okay? Usually the committees comprise of about anywhere from 12 to 20 people. And always it's a majority Democratic. Okay, so it's got to go through the committees, then on to the if the committee passes it, votes on it right there and passes it, it'll then go on to the Assembly floor for all 150 of us to vote on, okay? Now, the last 40 years, since 1974, the Assembly has been Democratic. There's been a Democratic majority, okay? The last majority leader who was Republican was Perry Duryea, and that was during the Nixon administration, all right? So, last year, we voted on 999 bills, okay? So you figure an average of 1,000 bills comes through the Assembly every year, okay? You multiply that by 40 years, that's what, 40,000 bills that get voted on, okay? Some of them actually, you know, will pass and then go on from there. But now, out of that 40,000 in 40 years, how many of those bills were initiated by a Republican, Jack, yes, you know, were by a Republican, where it actually passed the committee and then went on to the Assembly floor to be voted on, out of 40,000? Good close.
150.
Howard Hellwinkle's a cheater because he was there yesterday. But yeah, Howard, you're right. It's 3 out of 40,000. Okay? We do not have our voice heard whatsoever. You have had 40 years of hearing it from the Democrats from the New York State Assembly and nobody else. Okay? Every single bill that gets put out, that I put out, that any of my other 48 besodden comrades on the Republican side put in, gets voted out, put on hold by the committee without even debate. Yes, Jack?
Then tell us how you're so sure that this is going to be number 4.
That's the good question. That's what I'm going to shoot to do. The first thing that you got to do, here's the reality is the first thing you have to do is educate you guys. You have to know what's going on. Unless the public is educated and knows what's going on up there, they have no idea of this. And so, you know, first thing to do is, you guys, here we go. I'll have a press conference about this in another 3 weeks. What my plan is going to be very quickly is to be able to cut down the number of bills that are able to be presented to the Assembly, okay, from 999 to about 200, with every bill be required to have a companion bill in the Senate and to have a cost analysis of what the ramifications of this bill are going to be, either for the state in terms of extra taxation or cost to the state, or in terms of what it's going to cost the end user. Okay? That is part of responsible government, I'd say. We don't see anything like that right now. I never see a financial implication to any bill. Okay, so if they follow those regulations, and the other thing that I would get rid of is something called home rule bills, which are true anachronism in its worst form. It's 19th century. It's the idea that the state should have some oversight into essentially the financial responsibilities of the counties. Okay, and I dare say, having done it right now, none of us, I did not have any idea what the financial requirements of Chemung County was, or Tompkins County, or Tioga County, okay? I'm worried about it's enough to worry about Westchester and Putnam right now. Okay, so these bills are ridiculous and a waste of our time. Get rid of those, we'll be down to 200 bills, and with those 200 bills, we would not have them go through any committee. They would get put on straight onto the floor. So we're going to have a gut check around here at some point where they're actually going to have to vote on the difficult issues. Okay, I mean, I made a joke last week when I went to the Republican committee in Yorktown talking about how last week we saved the state. You don't know it, but we saved the state. How'd we do that? Well, we passed once again in the Assembly for the 10th year the transgender bill, also called the bathroom bill, which enables transgenders to go to the facility of their choice depending on what they're wearing on that given day. All right? That's the kind of bills we vote on right now. All right? I am ashamed to tell you that, but that's what you get. You don't get term limits, you don't get initiation referenda, you don't get tax abatement, you don't get Medicaid, reform. I'm sorry to tell you, I wish I could tell you that, but you certainly don't get pension reform. I'm very unhappy with Tier 6. I voted against it, and because it was nothing of what it promised to be. And so this is how you make Albany work again. And all the rest of it is baloney, okay? We have the right to have people voting that represent us, to vote on issues both left and right, Republican, conservative, Democrat. It doesn't matter. These are pressing issues that if we legislators responsibly, put forth a bill of statewide issue, it should be voted on. You know what I call the time? The time between the time that I put a bill in to get a number and the time that it goes into the committee, onto hold into committee, you know what I call that time? Death row. All right? Because I know as soon as it gets there, I'm a witness to it. I've seen it. It's incredible. So those are some things. My job right now is one of 48 out of 150. Okay, every time, first of all, any bill that gets onto the floor is going to be voted yes by a vote of 102 to 48, regardless of what we do. Okay, because the Democrats have 102 and we got 48. So this is the sort of stuff that I have to do now to educate, to inform the public, both left and right Democrats. I mean, I think that, that fair Democrats, moderate Democrats, would find this appalling as well. This is appalling.
You have mentioned before that the chance of getting a Democrat to sponsor a bill is often the way that you see to get things forwarded. Have you got a Democrat that can sponsor this bill and let somebody else take the credit? All we want is the passage.
That is all I do up there, Jack. Okay, so let me give you, first of all, okay, Jack asked a great question, and I'm going to tell you how like it is up there, okay, because this is what I've now learned, okay? I probably have more friends on the Democratic side than maybe any other assemblyman. They're all my friends. You know why they're my friends? Because I'm the veterinarian, okay? And half of them have pets. All right? And so it's wonderful, and I really truly have colleagues and very collegial, but they have an ideological line in the sand that they will not cross. Okay, I'll give you the one example that happened just a few weeks ago when I put in my bill to require there to be a government-issued picture ID in order for you to vote at your voting site. Okay. It's amazing that this is a fight. It's amazing that I'm even talking to you about this, right? I mean, but in any case. One of my colleagues on the other side, the Democrat named Charles Levine, put in a bill that would enable you to register to vote online. Okay, Republican and Democrat, but register online to vote. But in order to do so, you would be required to have a government-issued picture ID. So I went to Chuck Levine and I said, Chuck, let's carry this to the logical conclusion, right? You're requiring them to have the picture ID in order to register. Let's have them require that same ID in order to actually vote. Oh no, we can't do that. I said, why? No, why can't we do that? Oh, it's restrictive, it's discriminatory, it's a poll tax. I mean, you could come, I mean, the junk they came up with, that I had an answer for every one of them. Okay, but ultimately the answer is because Sheldon Silver doesn't want me.